So, you're managing a remote post-production team, and you know DaVinci Resolve 20's cloud features sound amazing, right? They promise this incredible world of seamless collaboration. But let's be honest, the reality can feel more like you're trying to navigate a minefield. That's why today, we're going to build a rock-solid, reliable cloud workflow step by step so you can actually focus on being creative and not on all the chaos. Oh man, we have all been there. You know that sinking feeling in your stomach when you open a project from a collaborator and all you see is just a sea of red media offline clips? Ugh, it is the absolute worst. It just grinds all your creativity to a halt, and suddenly your job becomes a technical support nightmare. Well, here's the good news. It absolutely can be. See, with the right foundation and a little shared discipline, Resolve's cloud collaboration starts to feel less like technology and, well, more like magic. It's all about building a system that's so reliable, it just kind of disappears into the background. Okay, let's dive in and see how it's done.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the core philosophy, the big idea behind it all. Then we'll walk through the technical setup and the different sync strategies. After that, we'll cover the single most critical moment of this entire process, and we'll wrap up with some hard-earned rules to keep your project running smooth from start to finish.
Okay, before we click a single button inside Resolve, we need to talk philosophy. I know, but trust me, the number one reason remote workflows fail isn't the software, it's a lack of structure. So here's the golden rule. Whoever owns the raw media owns the folder structure, period. That's the deal. I like to call this idea structural integrity. And it's not just about being neat and tidy. It's about creating a shared language for the project. When every single collaborator's drive is an identical mirror of the master, Resolve knows exactly where to find every file every single time. This right here, this is the bedrock of our entire workflow. And this is it. This is that master structure. It's clean, it's logical, and it is completely non-negotiable. Every single collaborator has to copy this exact hierarchy. See the numbers? They just make sure the folders sort correctly. Look, this isn't a suggestion. It's the price of admission to a project that won't give you a headache. All right, with our philosophy and our folder structure totally locked in, let's finally open up Resolve. Here is exactly how the project owner needs to set up everything up before anyone else gets invited to the party. So these first steps are pretty straightforward. You're going to create a Blackmagic Cloud Project library. This is the thing that syncs all your timelines, your bins, all that metadata. Then you invite your team using their Blackmagic IDs, you create the project inside that new shared library, and, this is critical, you enable multi-user collaboration. That's what lets Resolve handle all the bin and timeline locking automatically. Now this next part, this is a setting that will save you a world of pain. By default, Resolve wants to bury your proxies deep inside some hidden cache folder. Don't let it do that. You need to go into your preferences and change the proxy generation location to proxy subfolders in media file location. This keeps your entire project perfectly self-contained, and it makes sure your proxies sync up just like any other media file. So important. Okay, this is where we get to the real heart of the cloud setup. When you turn on Cloud Media Sync, you have to decide what actually gets synced. And there are basically 4 main strategies, and the one you pick really depends on what your collaborator's job is on the project. Just think of this table as your cheat sheet. Let's say you're working with a remote editor. You, the owner, only need to sync the proxies. But, and notice this, the editor should select sync proxies and originals. Why? Well, that makes sure that any new stuff they create, like graphics or music, syncs back to you in full quality. Now, for a remote colorist, it's way simpler. Everybody syncs everything. The other options are for more niche cases, like if you're shipping a physical hard drive. Let's just put the 2 most common workflows right next to each other to make this crystal clear. The editor's workflow, it's all about speed. They get lightweight proxies to work with, and you hold on to the master raw files. The colorist's workflow, on the other hand, is all about quality. They need the full resolution media to do their job properly, so everything gets synced. Understanding this difference is really the key to the whole thing. Okay, we've set up the project, we've picked our sync strategy. We have now arrived at the single most important moment in this entire process. The very first time your collaborator opens this project on their computer. And I am not exaggerating here. One wrong click at this stage can lead to days of relinking headaches. It all comes down to something called path depth, which is really just a fancy way of saying Resolve needs that mirrored folder structure to live at the exact same level on their machine as it does on yours.
So listen up because this is crucial. When your collaborator connects and saves the project for the first time, they have to save it next to the master media folder, not inside it. And here's the pro tip that sounds completely wrong but is absolutely right. If Resolve gives them a reused folder warning, that's fantastic news. That's the sign you're looking for. It means the path depth is a perfect match and everything is going to link up beautifully. We're almost home. The technical setup is done. Your project is live. Now, to keep it that way, let's just go over a few essential rules. Think of these as the lessons I've learned the hard way so that you don't have to.
Rule number 1, get on a screen share for that critical first open. Seriously, this is not about micromanaging, it's about leadership. One wrong click in that initial save process can just cause a cascade of problems. A 5-minute call right here will save you hours, maybe even days of troubleshooting later on.
This rule is simple and it is absolute. Once the project is started, you never move or rename files, ever. It breaks the chain for everyone involved. All your organization, all your file naming has to be done before you invite anyone in. And please, I'm begging you, never import anything directly from your downloads folder. It just completely shatters that beautiful mirrored structure we worked so hard to build. The rule is simple. Assets go into the 01_media folder first, and then you import them into Resolve. You have to remember, the cloud is for syncing, not for archiving. It is not a foolproof backup system. So after every major milestone in your project, export a local.drp file right into your 00 projects folder. Just think of it as your own personal insurance policy. And finally, before you start any high-stakes client project, do a test run. Just a tiny 1-minute project with a couple of clips. This is how you find and fix any little bits of friction in your workflow before the real pressure is on. You know, this chart really brings it all home. We spent all this time talking about settings and folders and tech, but look at this. Successful remote collaboration is only about 10% technology. The rest, it's all human. It's the discipline to follow the rules, the clarity to communicate well, and the trust that you have in your team. Let's end on that thought. The tools we have in Resolve 20 are incredibly powerful, but at the end of the day, they're just tools. The real magic happens when a team commits to a shared structure and a common language. When you get that right, you're not just moving files across the internet anymore. You're moving a creative vision forward, together. So what will you build?